the Merit Academy's first forum of civics. We are so happy to have you here today. Before we get started, please stand so we may recite our Pledge of Allegiance. We've got some introductions and rules to go over about our forum. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our steering team for this forum are our moderators. Anna Claire Ramirez is a Merit Academy sophomore who participates in the Awana program, and she loves welding and theater. Zoe Cole is a Woodland Park High School junior involved in Woodland Park High School theater. She is a school accountability committee member for Woodland Park High School. Wesley Kaufman is a junior with Colorado Early Colleges, on track to earn his associates in cybersecurity by graduation. He loves to golf and is a member of Merit Academy's High School Science Olympiad team.
Our timers include Kensley Peckron, a Merit Academy sophomore, who is a competitive state swimmer with the local Peak USA swim team, and Colorado state finalist with the varsity high school team at Woodland Park. Caleb Barnes, he is a Merit Academy sophomore.
Our concierge team includes Allie Guthart, a freshman with Merit Academy. She loves to study German and travel. Lily Faircloth is a freshman with Merit Academy. She's a member of the Merit Academy Science Olympiad team. And Riley Dill is a sophomore with Merit Academy. She and her horse compete in the sport of reining. And finally, our MCs.
Macy Roth is a Merit Academy freshman in our school of rhetoric. She is the vice president of student government, a volunteer coach with the Land Sharks Running Club, and Macy enjoys horseback riding, track, and cross country.
Caitlin Dill is a Merit Academy sophomore. She is the president of student government and is heavily involved in agility and obedience training with her German Shepherd and Sheltie. Caitlin and her canines competed and won multiple awards across the state, and they are heading to nationals in the spring.
The questions for tonight were submitted by community members, Merit Academy families, and were adapted from frequently asked questions on social media. Students in our sophomore U.S. History Honors class also submitted several questions. This same class reviewed all of the questions, and from this discussion, we have our questions for tonight. These School of Rhetoric students also considered how we were going to pose the questions, and we decided that each candidate would receive a unique question, with 10 questions per candidate, for a total of 30 questions.
These questions have been organized into 10 rounds of topics to be introduced before those questions. Candidates have 2 minutes to answer each question. Timers will be provided, a 30-second and a 10-second reminder, with the moderators closing out the response time at the 2-minute mark. Candidates also have 2 30-second cards that they can use if they would like an additional 30 seconds to finalize their answers, or if they want to comment on a question that was posed to one of the other candidates. Once they use their cards, they will be out of additional time or the ability to tag on to a different candidate's question.
Each candidate has an assigned moderator, assigned by alphabetical order. Mr. Mick Bates will field questions from Ms. Zoe Cole. Mr. Dave Illingworth will respond to questions posed by Mr. Wesley Kaufman, and Mrs. Cassie Kimbrell will answer questions from Ms. Anna Claire Ramirez. Also determined by alphabetical order, Mr. Bates will answer first in each round, followed by Mr. Illingworth and Mrs. Kimbrell.
Candidates will have 1.5 minutes of introduction before we begin the questions and 1.5 minutes of closing statement after the questions are concluded. This will also occur in alphabetical order, with Mr. Bates leading the charge. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to a great forum of civics. Mr. Bates, would you please lead off with your introduction?
Well, first of all, thank you all for making the time to be here tonight. Merit is a shining star of our school district. We're proud of Merit. It just creates more school choice, which is beneficial to all. When you have school choice and you have competing schools, everyone raises their level up, so it creates better schools. And we've got many choices here, and Merit being one of them, and we want to forge ahead with that. It is important that we brought the parents back into the equation, and this school board has done that so far. And the parents being the primary educators of our children, we needed to pull them back into the equation in some cases. And we're in the process of doing that. So this school board is off to a good start the last couple of years. And if I'm given the chance, I would like to continue that progress and see this through to perfection. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Dave Illingworth, and thank you all for coming out. And I'll follow up on what Mick said. It's great to be here at Merritt Academy. I first ran and was elected to the school board in 2021, and one of my main campaign promises was that I would charter Merritt Academy. Merritt Academy was already open at that point as a contract school. It had a healthy group of students. I think it was K through 8 then. And they were proving to be kind of an immediate success. And I think Merritt Academy's success now as a charter school within the district has become the district's success, because by many standards, Merritt Academy is our most popular school. It's grown, I think, more than doubled its size now in its third year, because it has about 400 students now, and started with only about 170 2 years ago. And so that engine of growth is an engine of growth for the entire district. And so we are very, very pleased to have Merritt Academy and its wonderful kids and teachers be part of our community. And I look forward to answering the questions here and seeing what these kids have got in store for us. Thanks.
Hi everyone, thank you guys for coming out tonight. My name is Cassie Kipperell, and I moved to Woodland Park in 2017. We moved to Colorado in 2016 from Indiana, so I graduated in a very small town. I had 89 kids in my class, and recently one of those kids that I graduated with from kindergarten to 12th grade is actually in this town now and looking to send their schools in the district, so that's really exciting. My husband and I first landed up in Greeley, and he had a startup. He was working with some people in Fort Collins, but that just did not work out for us. And we had always wanted to live in the mountains, so we took a drive down south and ended up in Woodland Park. After we were married in the Rocky Mountains, and then we saw all the kids playing, and it was such a just magical place, all the deer. We decided to have our daughter, and so that's really drew me to get involved with the schools and wanting to make sure that not only does this town reflect such beauty, but that our schools reflect the academic success and that what we're striving for and why we send our kids to school. So it's a little bit more about me. I think I have like 10 seconds, so thank you.
Mr. Bates, I want to thank you for being here today. Your first question starts off with, what is your vision for the Woodland Park School District over the next 5 years?
Well, as I said in my opening, can everyone hear me? As I said in my opening statements, a lot has been accomplished up to this point, but what the goal is to fill our schools up. If we can fill up these schools, I know that early on there was discussion about possibly closing a school. As we are seeing a lot of growth from Merritt, but we want growth throughout the entire district. And as we increase that growth, the tax base grows, and it allows us more monies to hire the best and brightest teachers. So it's a pretty simple route to pursue. People are transient, and a lot of schools are struggling with student counts, but we feel strongly about this. I've talked to a number of people that have moved here. I just spoke to a family from Crested Butte that came here because they liked what Woodland Park School District was doing. So I'm optimistic about this, and as I said, we want to attract the best and brightest teachers, and all that costs money, and we are very fiscally responsible, and we will go that direction over the next 5 years, and I'm optimistic. Thank you.
Mr. How should I pronounce your name? Illingworth? All right. Merritt Academy promotes 5 virtues: valor, perseverance, goodness, friendship, and responsibility. Which one of your core virtues, now your virtue does not have to be listed above as one of the 5 virtues by the school, but which one of your core virtues, what is one of them, and how will that virtue contribute to your role as a school board member?
Well, I'm going to take the easy way out and use one of the virtues that you've already listed here instead of come up with something else entirely. I guess I would go with perseverance, because I often say to my wife that the only good thing about me is that I'm stubborn. In the 2 years I've been on the school board, I've found that that's a quality that you kind of have to have, because there's certainly, it's not easy to do, to make change in a district that, I know that Woodland Park School District might seem small by some measures, but I mean, we have nearly 300 employees. Merritt Academy itself has about 75 employees on top of that, and we have over 2,000 students, so it's a lot of people, and it's not easy to just make a change overnight. I think Merritt Academy's own story is an example of that. But being stubborn has allowed me to focus on doing what I think is right, and also what I think I promised people I would do when I ran in 2021. And so I don't worry too much if the teachers union doesn't agree with what I want to do, because I don't represent the teachers union. I represent the people of Teller County and Woodland Park, and I care about what they want. And I put a message out there in 21, and they voted for it overwhelmingly. And it's my honor to see it through. And so perseverance is a quality that I think you're going to find Wes, right? You're going to need that anywhere you go in life. So it certainly comes in handy as a school board director, but it's going to come in handy just what you have to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Kimbrell, for being here. Locally, there are 2 very distinct and countering philosophies of what should and should not be included in education. To our knowledge, there has never been an organized election with this many voters where candidates have won by unanimous vote. So what is your philosophy regarding public education, and why should our community vote for this philosophy and for you?
That's a great question. One philosophy I do live by is knowledge is power, and so without having the knowledge, you cannot continue to succeed in this world, in this life. And so even while you're in school, and right now you guys are learning, and you're possibly thinking, I can't wait until I graduate, but after you graduate, you're still learning. And it's that sort of drive and that passion that, I want to represent and continue for our school district, because, despite what skills you might have and the knowledge, if you can continue to learn and have that love for learning, that's going to set you on your way. And I want every student and anyone in our community to have those same philosophies. So I think that's very important, and if elected, I will continue to pursue that. So that academic excellence. So thank you.
Thank you.
CTR, critical race theory, SEL, social emotional learning, and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, religion, or gender identity are controversial concepts that can cause a deep divide of what should and should not be in education today. Considering the board decides the curriculum in a district, how will you honor the parents' wishes who would not like it offered to their children, while also honoring those parents who believe that these are important concepts for their children to learn?
I don't believe in supporting all of the things that you just mentioned. As we've discussed before, academically, the students in our schools are struggling with the base things, reading, math, and I think too many things have crept into our schools that are taking their focus, our students' focus away from learning. Now, as I've said before, I do believe in parent choice. And if this is something, and I'm sure there are parents that would want their children to be learning these things, they can certainly teach them in the home. I mean, as far as that goes, parents are the children's first teacher. But I don't want to bring these things into our schools. Thank you.
say to a new family who asked if they should send their students to the Woodland Park School District, especially after seeing all the conflicting news reports and social media posts?
Well, I would tell any new family that was interested in coming to Woodland Park that, first off, they should be careful, because if they visit here, they'll probably end up moving here, because it has that kind of effect on them. But anybody who's saying, well, I want to come to Woodland Park, but I'm concerned about the school district and whether that's going to work for my child, I would point out to them that the Woodland Park School District is one of the few, and I think one of the brightest stars in the state right now, in terms of loudly proclaiming its focus, its interest in academic success above all, in putting parental rights first and foremost, and making sure that as a parent, you have the right to know what is being taught to your child. And I think that you have the right to have a say in what's being taught to your child, whether that's through being heard at the district level and influencing policy, or whether that's through having a vigorous and strong ability to opt out of material that is either inappropriate or not helpful to your child's education and development. And I would point out that the Woodland Park School District does have school choice now. This is a district that is focused on providing total opportunities to the families that come here. You know, a couple years ago, you did not have school choice. You had the school district's approach, and whether you liked it or not, that was it. And I think that that inhibited Woodland Park's ability to attract young families up here, and that inhibited the ability of the school district to grow in a healthy way that was going to support the kind of wages and benefits that we need to have good teachers and good educational programs. So something had to be done about that. Merit Academy was an obvious way to make a big improvement. And so now families come up here can know that just like if they were in the Springs, they've got options in terms of if it doesn't work for my child at the at Columbine or Summit, it may work at Merit Academy. And we do have families that have children in different schools because of their children's
Your
needs.
time is up.
Ms. Kimbrell, how would you partner with parents to prioritize the education of their children if you were elected to this position?
Well, even prior to being elected, I was partnering with parents, and there was a real need for the charter school as well as just a change in the district into opening that. So before I was appointed, you know, I went to the board meetings and I was a part of it and hearing, you know, those parents. And even as elected, I've done that, or as appointed, I've talked to parents. And one of them was the calendar issue. And, you know, she sat down with me and I invited Illingworth to come, and she said, you know, I don't necessarily agree with the politics, but I'm so glad you guys are here to listen. And here's what's going on. You know, I'm starting a job after 2020, and there's a week off here, and I'm trying to get my, you know, some stability, but I don't have childcare. So, or you know, we're two families, and both our parents work, and we're not finding, you know, the child needs that we need for the time off. So, what do we need to do? And so we looked into it. We started talking to a lot of parents across the district. There was surveys, and it was definitely split. But when times have changed, much like 2020 and the economy, we need to make sure that our parents are able to work and be able to send their kids wherever they want and have that schedule that would be provided for them. So in partnering with parents, you know, there's a lot of ways to doing that, including even with the DAC and the district accountability committees and the SACs, the school accountability committees, having parents on there and getting involved and listening, that comes all the way up to the top. So, you know, whether it's in one of the buildings of Woodland Park High School or the middle school, or it's even in the elementary. So we're here to listen to parents.
Thank you.
Mr. Bates, what are your plans to significantly improve district and board communication with all stakeholders, including the community taxpayers who may or may not be Woodland Park School District parents?
Communication's a difficult thing. Communication's a difficult thing. The first thing that I would suggest is to turn off your social media. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and it's difficult to communicate what is really going on within the district without all that, the side stories that can get pretty creative. I'm surprised. But, I mean, you know, there's been questions about our allowing people into our monthly board meetings. We'll go 2 meetings with the room 2/3 full, and then we'll have a meeting that there is overflow. And for security reasons and fire marshal reasons, we can put about 90 people in that room. But folks, you can stay at home and watch this on YouTube. This is available to every person in our community, and we want for them to be informed. So please use that avenue to stay in touch. And as through this, I've been on the board now for about 8 months, and you know, communication is something that was important to me. I said, you know, there are so many questions out there. Folks, it is difficult to get this information out, but we are focused on improving that, and we'll continue to do so. And please ask questions of us. I mean, I'm around in the community a lot, and I do get a lot of questions. But, you know, people say we aren't transparent. We actually are very transparent. But there's a lot of interference. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, if you are elected, how do you plan to manage the division between some members of the community and this administration and elected board?
You know, this is an age-old question, I think, in terms of politics, because, you know, politics are inherently divisive. When you go and vote on an issue, whether it's something like Prop HH, you're voting yes or no. You're not voting for halfway in between. And it's often that way when voting for candidates, even for the school board election. I think it's been pretty clear throughout this campaign that Mick and Cassie and myself have one approach. I think it's a conservative, pro-parent approach, and the other side really doesn't. They've only come out clearly on a couple issues, but I wouldn't describe them as conservative or pro-parent on any of them. So I think what you have to recognize when you're voting for something, that you're voting either to go one way or the other way oftentimes. And it's up to the person who's elected to honor the choice of the people who voted and try and accomplish what the people who voted for that person want accomplished. It's not my job to get in there and try and make everybody friends or make everybody like me. That you're not going to get anything done that way. Unfortunately, when you're trying to produce change, there's always going to be people who don't like the direction you're going or think you should have stayed in the exact same place you started. And so I think what we have to do is we have to understand that if the voters have made a choice, it's the job of the representatives to honor that choice and to pursue that choice. Now that said, I listen to everybody who talks to me, even the people who come and don't have friendly things to say every month at the school board meeting. It's usually the same dozen people. I read all the emails that are sent to us, and one of the good things about an election like this is that it does awaken the public, and they get engaged and invested, and they do contact you. And it's a great opportunity for everybody to be able to hear from the public that they're supposed to represent. So I think that's the way you have to do it.
Ms. Kimbrell, what do you see as the strengths and the barriers to communication between the WPSD and its stakeholders, which include community taxpayers?
Sounds like a mixed question. The answer is social media is definitely a barrier. But no, jokingly aside, we have 6 schools, and so you can go online, you can go on their Facebook pages, and you can find out what's happening in those school district, or in those different schools in the district. And so one of the strengths is that we do have such a small community, and so when there is something out, or you can get news from the press, as well as you know, our district website, you can just come to the district and talk to us. You can email us, you can ask questions, because sometimes the press is going to chop up a sentence or take it out of context, or you're going to see something on the news and it's a highlight, and you're not going to know the full story. And so coming out here tonight like you guys are and spending your evening with us, I appreciate it, because you're coming and hearing the facts from us versus what you read online or on social media. So, you know, that's definitely one of the strengths, is that we do live in a small town and that we are here, and, you know, we're families. You see us at the grocery stores, you see us at the community events, and so we're friendly faces to come and talk to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bates, under your leadership as a school board member, what does a strong and stable Woodland Park School District look like?
Well, I mean, stability is very... You know, everyone says I talk so loud, especially my wife. A stable school district is important. There have been some changes over this last couple of years, and it has caused some turmoil for some. And we feel like we've made a lot of progress. We're going to continue in that progress. And as these questions are all intertwined, but as I said earlier, we want to get our enrollment up, fill up our schools. You know, one quick statistic, prior to this board coming into place in 21, they had hired the school district had hired a study done to project out what to do with these half-empty schools. And at that time, their projection for student enrollment this year was guessed at 1,695. The school district is over 2,000 students now. So I think we're on a good path. Here again, it's all intertwined. As we get our enrollment up, we get our tax base up. It gives us more monies to attract these teachers that we're looking for and have. And we had a pretty high teacher turnover last year, and everyone said, you know, there's such a shortage of teachers throughout the state, it's going to be difficult to fill those positions. Well, we did very well. Special education is still a challenge, and it is for everyone, but we only have 2 teacher openings right now as we speak. And we've got some great teachers that are still with us, and we've got some wonderful new teachers. So we want to build this up, fill our schools up, continue to allow schools...
I'm sorry, Mr. Bates, your time's up.
I know they are. She got a stick out.
Mr. Illingworth, regarding the future of Merritt Academy and myself as a student, if you are elected to the Woodland Park School District Board, what does my future look like as a proud Merritt Academy student, in that I plan to attend Merritt through graduation?
If I'm reelected to the school board, the Merritt Academy community can be completely confident that they have a friend and a partner on the school board. And that's not something that many charter schools get from their district authorizer. I do have 4 students, my own children, who are 4 students here at Merritt Academy. It didn't start out that way. We were initially at Gateway, and then as Merritt opened, we did take a chance on it with some of the kids. And it's been such a great success that now all 4 of them attend Merritt Academy, so I'm a Merritt parent too. And I do think that the Merritt Academy community should, watch this election very, very closely, because I don't think that if the other slate gets elected, that Merritt Academy can have that same confidence that they'll continue to be treated fairly as an equal partner in this district's education and be given the resources they need to provide to their students and to grow the way that this school has been growing. And so I think that that is a very real issue. In fact, I think it's one of the biggest issues in the election, and has been since I was elected in 2021. I was elected in response to the old school board unanimously denying Merritt Academy's charter, even though it was homegrown and organic, and there was great public demand, and the school board's independent expert recommended chartering Merritt Academy. you know, they sowed the wind and they reaped the whirlwind at the ballot box in 21. And so I have fulfilled that promise to the voters, and because Merit Academy has been such a great success for all involved, for the district, for the great employees here, and for our great kids, I foresee Merit Academy continuing to be a big part of Woodland Park School District's success.
Ms. Kimbrell, what do you believe is the first step in bettering the education for all students in our district?
The first step. You know, the first step for any parent is, you know, where they want to decide to choose, and where they want to decide to send their, you know, students or their kids to their school. School choice, it's really important, and here in Colorado we have that. And so if there's a program or a teacher or something that you like better at Gateway, you can go to Gateway. If you want to send your kid and you're in the Gateway district and you want to go to Summit, you can go to Summit. If you want to send them to Merit, you can send them to Merit. And so here, you know, as parents, you know, for bettering education is the choice. And so parents have the opportunity to decide and look at a school and say, hey, do they have the options or the track or the academics that, you know, we're looking for? And so with that, that's great. But as a Board of Education director, you know, we're constantly looking with our administration of, you know, is this program working? We need to look over it over time. What is going on? What are the parents saying? If there's things that are not, you know, if there's things that are happening in the classes that are not being productive, or they're coming home and saying, hey, this is not working, and the parents are calling us up, then we're going to advise that. So again, it's always the parents' involvement, listening to the administration, and just making sure that we're on track with our students and our academics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bates, a few community members continue to suggest that Merit Academy, or charter schools in general, steal students' per pupil revenues away from their district. Do you agree or disagree with this concept, and why?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. A few community members continue to suggest that Merit Academy or charter schools in general steal students and their per pupil revenues from their district. Do you agree or disagree with this concept, and why?
I disagree with that. Every student within this Woodland Park School District are our kids, all of our kids. And you'll hear a lot about the merit students getting benefits that the rest of the school district is paying for. Folks, you need to understand that we get about $17,000 per student in this district, but our charter school Merit, they only get about $12,000. They aren't able to take advantage of all the various funding situations. So we are doing to the best of our ability, which I think is very good, to break this up and make it even for all, because, as I said, that every student within this school district, regardless of the school, they're all our kids. And I think we all need to take that into consideration as you see this division between the two schools. It's particularly hard on the students. And I think we need to be sensitive to that. We need to be sensitive to what we say around our children, because some of the things that I'll hear aren't really thoughts of a young person. So we need to be the adults in the room. And as I said, we as the parents are the chief educator of our children. And we educate them 24 hours a day. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, the district has lost over 1,500 students since 2001, which also equates to over $60 million in funding. What are your plans to reverse this decline in enrollment and increase the number of students who receive educational services from the district?
You know, that's definitely true that we've lost a lot of students. When I was elected in 21, this district unquestionably had been in a very long period of decline. Back in the early 2000s, the district had about 3,000 students. When I was elected in 21, it was about 1,800 students. But as we've talked about earlier here, there's now over 2,000. So for the first time in more than a decade, the district is on the rise. We are seeing enrollment growth, and like you said, that leads to growth in taxpayer dollars, growth in school budgets, and that means growth in salaries and benefits, growth in services and programs and opportunities. The sort of things that allow us to make sure that the Merit Academy kids are eating here in this very cafeteria. You know, last year they weren't. They were sharing this building with the middle school, but they were eating in a building outside. Only the middle school kids got to use the kitchen and hot meals here. Likewise, Merit Academy kids get to ride the buses here now every morning. We had families who had a kid at Merit Academy and one at the middle school, and one kid could get on the bus and the other couldn't. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. You know, I approach this job as a parent, and I keep in mind that the schools exist for the children, and the children belong to the parents. And so I think I have a pretty good feel, or at least I come from a place of understanding what parents' concerns are in terms of what they're looking for their children's future and what they're looking to get out of their children's schools. And so if I can keep that mentality in front of me, I think that's going to be helpful to a school board director. Because if you understand what a parent is looking for, then you understand what the customer that you are supposed to serve is needing, and you can try and meet that supply. You can supply to that demand. So, and I think it's going to be a little bit easier, you guys with the 10-second cards, y'all want to see. In part because we are standing apart from a lot of school districts right now and approaching.
Sorry, time is up.
We are in a very strong contrast right now with a lot of school districts throughout the state that are focused on hiding and concealing things from their customers, the parents, instead of partnering with their parents. They are focused on politics instead of academics, okay? And they are focused on how they can make their teachers union happy instead of how they can make their parents happy. And so if we continue down our path, I think we're going to continue to attract lots and lots of families up here. It'd be nice if you could take 30 seconds off the amount of time.
Ms. Kimbrell, what do you perceive to be the trends of the WPSD enrollment over the past 2 decades, and what will you do to contribute to the growth of the WPSD schools?
Great question. When you first start looking at the district and enrollment over the past couple decades, you'll notice that there was a decline. It was sort of stagnant until this board was elected. And you know, prior to me being appointed, the charter school was a big deal. And even in 2020, 2021, when the charter school wasn't a part of the district and they were a BOSI school and they were contracted, there was a group of parents that said, hey, we're here, we have a vision, we have a dream, and we're gonna make it happen. And you see that tonight, and just everywhere that I meet with people in town, you know, they're talking about, you know, Woodland Park and how exciting it's been, and how there isn't, you know, options, and how we can send our kids from Summit. There's been parents that do live in the county that send their schools to Gateway and Columbine. So, you know, also with the feasibility study prior to when I was on the board, the estimated prior to Merit Academy, the estimated enrollment was only going to be 1,600. So we were still looking at a decline. And now we're not talking about closing a school. Like, we should be celebrating that there's no schools that are going to be closed. The teachers don't have to risk losing their jobs, and that there's growth here. And so I'm very excited about that. And I'm also excited for the trend. I talked to a lot of parents, and even tonight, the people that are moving because of this school district. And so I welcome that, and I welcome the families and the growth, and I'm excited because these school buildings used to be packed full 2 decades ago, and they're not now, but we're looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bates, what is your plan regarding the Summit Learning Platform, including ideas for expanding, altering, and removing or providing options to parents who are dissatisfied with the SLP and also do not wish to attend a classical program or charter school?
Summit Learning curriculum is a love-hate curriculum. When this school board first came on board, that was one of the things that they were committed to do was to make a change in that curriculum. But as they got in there, they found that there were a lot of people in the district that liked Summit Learning Platform. So we get back to the choice issue. If your child if Summit Learning Platform works for your child, they can go to Gateway and work under that curriculum. If that doesn't work for them, they can go over to Columbine for a different curriculum. If your middle schooler doesn't work well with Summit Learning Platform, that's what's at the middle school, they can go to Merit and get more of that classical education. So we are providing choices, and there are a lot of curriculums out there, but those take time and research, and in some cases it's very expensive. But what we did learn was that, I don't know if it was 50-50, but close, of people that did like Summit and people that didn't like it, so we left it in place. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, there are many conflicting messages in the community regarding the recently implemented American Birthright Standards. Could you please discuss these standards as you understand them?
Sure. I'm going to start off with something that I want to dispel, that I keep seeing put out there on social media and in the press from the Union Slate and their supporters, which is this idea that American Birthright Standards has somehow jeopardized NCAA accreditation within the Woodland Park School District. That is absolutely false and pretty patently ridiculous, quite frankly. I've done a lot of conversations with our superintendent, our chief academic officer, to investigate this claim. And the bottom line is, anytime that you develop a new class or you change the curriculum within a class, you always have to resubmit that course to the NCAA for accreditation. Oftentimes that happens in the middle of the school year, and it's a mere formality, it's a routine. You submit it, and a couple weeks later you have it back. So this idea that accreditation has been revoked, is in jeopardy or at risk, is completely false. And the people who are saying that, they know better. They do. They know better. They know they're lying to you. So other than that, I want to talk about the American Birthright Standards, that they're standards, they're not curriculum. They are standards generally focused on civics, geography, and history. And they're there to teach in depth the history of America as well as world history in the proper context. They do not tell teachers how to teach, but they do set standards for what should be taught. And importantly, this is one of the things that is what's so important about a school board election, because this is where a director really has influence, because the Constitution and the law vest the method of learning and instruction with the school board. We meet and exceed the state standards set by the State Board of Education, but we adapt them to our own local schools. And that's how we keep our schools in control of our voters and our parents and our community.
Ms. Kimbrell, what is your definition of school choice, and what does school choice look like for the district if you are elected?
Well, school choice, again, I feel like I've talked about this a lot tonight, so sorry about it. You know, growing up in Indiana, there wasn't school choice. So I actually went to school with kids that they used a grandparent's address, or, you know, their parents were at risk of getting arrested. And why didn't they want to send their kid to their district and the location? Because the academics weren't good, or there was a lot of school fights, or there was bullying. And so for school choice, what that means for me is that parents have the opportunity to send their kids to the school that they desire and choose for them, the school that's going to make them thrive and, you know, strive. Maybe it's an academic program, maybe it's for the sports. We see that all the time here. And so Colorado is very big in that. And also homeschooling. You guys get a lot of the homeschooling families, and you know, I currently do that as well as my preschooler. And so homeschooling, charter schools, traditional schools, public schools, everyone has a choice here. And so if elected, that will continue to be my motto. Everyone has a choice despite where you live. Every parent should have the choice to send their kid to the school that they desire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Two differing perspectives regarding the founding of America are the 1776 Project and the New York Times 1619 Project. What are your thoughts on these differing perspectives in regards to teaching the founding of America at Woodland Park School Districts?
First of all, the 1619 Project has a very narrow focus. It focuses on the consequences of slavery and the impact that it had on the black community during that time. And it is overly focused in that area, whereas the 1776 project looks at our founding fathers. It covers the Civil War. It talks about the true history of this country, start to finish. Yes, we did have slavery, but we were the first country to get rid of it as quickly as we did. It wasn't that simple, but that is a dark spot in our history. But ladies and gentlemen, we have some very bright spots in our history. For people to pursue a life of liberty, a pursuit of happiness, and there's good things. And you know what? We want to teach them all, as Mr. Illingworth was sharing with regards to the American birthright. You teach it all to the students, but I don't think you put a narrow focus on any one thing. That doesn't make for a well-rounded education in civics. No. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, we read prior board members and other educational refer to our governance as a democracy. Could you please explain your thoughts on a democracy versus a representative democratic republic and why that knowledge would be important for a board member?
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I hit an air bubble.
So, of course, America is what you'd either call like a representative republic or representative democracy. And the oldest examples, I think, go back to Greece. Athens had the democracy, the will and majority, and Rome had the first republic. And the main feature, and I don't think we really have a country in the world that just practices flat democracy. But the reason that it's developed so that most countries do have the representative democracy or republic is that you have a constitution to protect the rights of the minority, because in a pure democracy, the majority is always going to win no matter what, and it makes it too easy for the rights of the minority to be trampled, to be ignored, and ultimately for the minority to be more or less wiped out from the public sphere. So when you have a constitution like we have, with a separation of powers, you have checks and balances, and that ensures that although the majority can influence and have a say in the laws that are being made and the way they're being enforced, that they do have to respect those rights contained within the Constitution, such as the First Amendment. Most recently, we've seen a lot of litigation around protecting the rights with the Second Amendment. I do think that plays a part in the school board, because it comes down to a director. You have to have a governing philosophy, and really you have to be asking yourself, who do you represent? And the school board that I replaced had become extremely out of touch and basically saw themselves as just representing the teachers and the administration writ large. They were almost like just cheerleaders for their own employees. They hadn't had an election in more than 10 years, so no wonder they had lost touch with the concerns of the real voter and the parent. And that's the difference when you run a campaign and you meet with your voters and you hear their concerns. And I have 10 seconds. So I do think that's critical that we have school board directors who continue to believe, I am here to represent the people.
Time is now up.
Not the administration.
I got it. You got it?
I slipped it in. You distracted him.
Ms. Kimbrough, What is your position on studying the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution across the grades in school?
Absolutely. If we don't know the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, then we are not understanding our own nation's history. I mean, our laws, the fabric of our country, our culture, it all depends on it. Not for only a historical stance of how this country was built upon, but also understanding civics today. And so I absolutely agree with studying both of those in all grades and classes. You're never too young to know your rights and understand the morals and principles that we are given in this country. A lot of people fight for that, and a lot of people come over here for that, and they take the citizenship test, and it's not easy. And our own students should be able to know that, especially in Teller County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bates, what does a healthy district mental health program look like to you? As an elected representative, what will you do to ensure the necessary steps towards this district mental health program?
You know, COVID created challenges for students and parents and all Americans. It was a challenging time. It brought with it some mental health issues that people hadn't previously had to deal with. So all of these mental health grants were put out there. And when you really broke down these mental health grants, they came with a lot of baggage, folks. And a lot of it didn't have much to do with mental health as much as it did indoctrination into some other issues. And there are numerous examples. But what we have done as a school district, we've gone back to pre-COVID numbers for counselors. You'll hear people say we don't have counselors. That is not true. You need one counselor per every 250 to 300 students. So that puts a counselor in each of our 5 schools, and in our 6th school, the high school, we have 2 counselors. They have their work cut out for them, you guys. Life can be a challenge in today's America, but we do the best we can, and schools are not equipped to deal with mental health. But we can be the bridge to put the 2 groups together. We have MindSight, a program now, and we continue to work on that. I mean, a facet of that is the lack of special education teachers to help with some people's various issues. So it is front and center. We are working on it. It's a nationwide problem, but these grants, have you ever heard the saying that nothing is free? 10 seconds. Nothing is free. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, Woodland Park Middle School and Merritt Academy's School of Logic have earned a rating of distinction due to their high growth and achievement scores on the CMAS last year. You have mentioned one of your goals is to improve academics through the district. What are some ways the district can accomplish this?
Well, I think we're already doing that, and that's why adopting the American Birthright Standards was such a great thing for us to do. It allowed us to really take a bold step forward in changing the way that we are teaching our social studies, our civics, our history, by making sure that we're teaching it in depth. And I think what we have to get back to is a focus on basically knowledge, not nonsense. We need to get back to teaching knowledge and not nonsense. And too many of these districts, even within our own state, they've really taken their eye off the ball. And they're more focused on chasing down those grant dollars that Mick was talking about, and more focused on putting out some sort of PR release about some kind of service that they're providing. And they're less focused and less worried that they're going to be here when the music stops in order to actually prove that they've done anything worth a darn. And what we know is that our kids can't afford to have that time go by. We learned that during COVID. I mean, I was there with my kids on the remote learning, you know, and remote learning should be put in air quotes because it wasn't remote learning. And I'm not blaming any teachers who are working their hearts out to try and maintain a class with, 15, 20 kids, and none of them are in the room, and they're all over a computer. It was misery for everybody. But it was a tragedy for those kids, okay? That was a tough year for parents, that was a tough year for teachers, but that was time those kids will never get back. And we're still reaping the fruit from what we sowed with that one, folks. And that was why I got into this in 21, because I wanted those schools open, I wanted those masks taken off our kids, and I wanted us focused on teaching, and not focused on whether we were pulling in mental health dollars to make our own selves look good, instead of worried about our own kids' education and their future. Thanks.
Ms. Kimbrell, what do you see as the district's role in supporting students' mental or emotional health?
Well, first and foremost, the district role is to educate students. And so we have to keep that as our primary goal, is the academics and the excellence. And the second part of that is, including the parents. And so you see that as this board has already done that with the mental health bill that came down from Colorado State. They were bringing in I Matter, the organization, and they were going to do health evaluations and mental health evaluation, but not with the parents' consent. And so this board believes that parents should always have the right and always have that consent first. And so we are the bridge, we're here to help, we're a community. So if there are mental or emotional helps or support, we're here to do that. I know that's happened to me many times where this community has came together, whether I've had a death in the family or there's been, my daughter was born with her esophagus not connected to her stomach and her trachea connected to her esophagus, and she's thriving, but this community came together and they sent letters of support. And as a mom here that moved, it was so encouraging. And I know everyone in this community, why we move here and why we don't live in the city, we live in a small town for a reason. And so the schools are a representation of that, and we as the board are a representation of that. We're not here to dismiss any one of those needs, and so that's why we have partnered with Mindsight, and it's why we're involved. And so you can go to any one of our administration and staff, and if those parents are saying, hey, my kid needs a little extra assistance, we're here to get that for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bates, given the shortage of teachers across the state, what are your plans to attract and retain the best teachers in our schools?
Well, I think we're already in the process of doing that. Since the early 2000s, teacher raises were few and far between, and they weren't a lot. So you can't make up that difference in a couple of years. This school board, prior to my being here, did put out some 8.5% raises. It was unheard of in the Woodland Park School District. The teachers got a 5% raise this last year. We want to continue that progress, and again, I keep sounding like a broken record. We want to get our enrollment up and get our tax base up here. These D49 and some of these larger school districts down the hill, they have a much bigger pool to pull from. So we do have to operate within our budget and be fiscally responsible, but I think we can set a path to increase that, and we do want the best and brightest teachers. And one more anecdote. I spoke to at the high school's open house. I spoke to a teacher that had just come up here, and he moved up here because of the environment that this school board has put into place. So people don't talk about the success stories, but there are many. And we will continue to attempt to attract them. I spoke about that in my opening comments. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, do you support teacher union influence in our school district? What is your plan when it comes to the local teachers union and our district?
I wrote the question myself. Do I support teacher union influence in the school district? No. My plan for dealing with them is to make sure that they're in their proper little circle and scope and staying in their lane. And really, that's what gets down to it, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't have anything against unions per se. I mean, I I've been working as a prosecutor for 17 years now. I deal with law enforcement. I think police officers really depend on their unions to protect them from the whims and the changes that happen in the legislature as politicians try and find a new victim to throw under the bus to keep the target off their own backs. And my father is a retired police officer, so I do know there are good unions out there. The teachers union and the WPEA, unfortunately, are a very bad example of a union that's really gone off the rails and lost their way. They've lost their focus on making sure their teachers are paid well and have good benefits. They've lost their focus on making sure their teachers have the right resources and the best tools in order to do their jobs with any success. I mean, teachers go into these careers because they have a lot of love and passion for educating children. I mean, if you're a parent like I am with 4 little kids, you've got to wonder how a teacher can do that all day long. I mean, give me a break. And that's the little ones who are still cute. I mean, to say nothing of the teenagers. This crew over here. But here's the deal. The WPA is like the local enforcement arm of the Democratic Party in Colorado. And they're part and parcel of the Colorado Education Association, which is openly anti-capitalist, anti-American. I mean, that's a radical Marxist position to say that you should not be able to own your own work, for heaven's sake. It's nuts. You know what? I'm running out of questions. I'm going to use my last card before she's gone. This is a rich area. And so, I'm going to give you an example of how the teachers union can have an effect in a way in a school district that you don't normally think of. We had a proposal come in the spring to have a Woodland Park High School men's swim team. And it was made perfectly clear from the package that came in that months of work, 10 seconds, had gone into it. Well, we were told by the teachers union you had to veto it because the teachers union had a rule that they got a year's notice for that sort of thing. And we said, no, that's ridiculous.
No, 30 seconds. You need it.
We're not going to veto a program that's going to benefit our students and also benefit the Woodland Park Aquatic Center that needs all the help it can get right now in terms of being used and making up all the tax dollars that have been invested. Now, we're not going to veto that because the union has an arbitrary rule that they get a year's notice before the district can approve anything that's going to benefit my kids and my staff over there. That's ridiculous. And our superintendent said, absolutely not, we're going to adopt that program. And that's been to the good of everybody in this community.
You're welcome, Dave.
Miss
How
Kimbrough.
much would you give me for one of those?
Miss Kimbrough, what do you see as the district's role in supporting, sorry, I read that one already. Hang on. What is your approach as a board member to ensure there is ample staff for optimal student learning and also balance that with the declining student enrollment across the schools?
That's a great question. We did see some of that. We did lose teachers over the summer, but we worked really hard and we were able to regain that, especially in one of the elementary schools. And how we did that was because of the policies that we've had set in place. The union isn't controlling our taxpayer dollars. So if a teacher wants to join the union, they can do it on their own terms. And there were some teachers that actually moved up here because we are a district that does not have a union influence in it. So another part of that was some of the liabilities that we were offering. And so one of that is Professional Association of Colorado Educators. So if there are needs, the teachers can opt into those services. So there is not a need for them to pay union dues. We have that, and so we brought up a lot of teachers for that reason, because there are moments that they might feel that they need that liability insurance. We've increased our life insurance for teachers prior to this, and I have no idea why this was so low and why this was not negotiated prior to this board. Was the life insurance for teachers was $15,000 and now it's $50,000. And so we're looking at that and we're trying to compete with schools in different districts down in the Springs. But here we have different choices. We have offering, and we have a great community. Woodland Park is a beautiful town. There's a lot of people that want to drive up our path. There are a lot of people that want to come up here and see the animals, see the beautiful mountains. be here for spring and the warm sunshine. So we have that going for us already. So we have to keep focusing, what we're giving to the teachers and the benefits, and also listening to the parents. If it's not for the parents that are moving here and sending their schools to this district, then we wouldn't have them. So I think they're gonna give me my time up. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, there's some big fancy numbers in this next question. Given that the 3 elementary schools are operating at 44%, 55%, and 58% functional capacity, and that the high school is operating at 45% functional capacity, and given that the 40,000 facility study commissioned by the prior board mentioned the need to possibly close an elementary school by 2026, what are your plans for the district facilities in both the short term and the long term?
Well, in the short term, we can project out. I mean, we're seeing significant growth within Merritt Academy. We have lots of school space. There are creative ways to accommodate everyone, but the ultimate objective is to fill these schools back up. Shutting down a school is just not an option. There are a lot of downsides to shutting a building down and then ever possibly starting it back up. But this is a two-pronged issue. Our facilities need maintenance and mechanical things done, and it is expensive to maintain a school. This board has budgeted a significant amount of money this year. You saw a lot of what was done during the off-season. So this district is taking a look at not only filling these schools up, but keeping them up and safe, and we are doing that. And I'm confident that as we get this growth that we are anticipating, that we will make the proper choices in what we do with the students in the various schools. We've got a lot of flexibility. We've got schools that are all at about half to 60% full. We've got the space. Thank you.
Mr. Illingworth, this next question also has long, fancy numbers. The facilities consultant recognized over $34 million of needed improvements throughout all 5 of the district facilities. Mr. Bryant, who is unfortunately not here to answer this question, has stated that Merritt Academy should have a brand new school building. What are your thoughts on spending an additional $30 to $50 million on another facility in town for the newest district in the community, when we also have $34 million of needed improvements for facilities that are operating at 40 to 58% capacity?
I mean, the question kind of answers itself right there by pointing out that it would cost, millions and millions of dollars to build a new school when we already have buildings that are not anywhere approaching something like max capacity, and they have their own sorts of improvements and costs that go into them. Seth Bryant has said that, but I'll say this, to whoever has said that, whoever thinks that's the way forward, that person is either woefully uninformed or is trying to pull the wool over the voters' eyes. There are some people who are very opposed to the success of this charter school. Teachers' unions are very opposed to the success of charter schools, including the one in this district, which has become the most popular school district because of its enrollment growth. And so they want to have it both ways sometimes and say, oh, I love Merritt Academy. Merritt Academy is a blessing. But then they start talking about trying to cap Merritt Academy's growth or spending millions of dollars that they know nobody's going to pay for through a tax increase to build a building that nobody asked for or needs. And those are the same people that don't actually come to Merritt Academy to face the voters and face the students and answer questions, if I'm noticing what's actually happening. And so the point is this, we have great facilities and they're manageable. We need to fill them with students. We do that by making it clear to parents that this is a district focused on academic success. It's focused on parents' rights, and it's about empowering parents, not enriching teachers' unions. If we do that, parents will come here because we have an edge that can't be matched, which is we're in Woodland Park. It's so much safer, it's so much nicer, and it's so much more beautiful than Colorado Springs, which isn't a bad town. But people want to be here. We need to offer them the schools that they want, and they will come here.
Well, I do not have fancy numbers. This is our final question. Thank you. Ms. Kimbrough, the Colorado state statutes note that it is the board's duty to determine which schools should be operated and maintained, and also to ensure the facilities are maintained for students. WPSD's long-established policy states it is the goal of the district to provide and maintain the number of facilities needed for the enrollment, that's underlined by the way, and the types of facilities supportive of the education system. How do you plan to uphold these responsibilities as a board member for this district?
It's a great question. And so going forward, I think you already see that this direction of the board and what has happened is that they did charter, Merit Academy, and they were able to offer one of the buildings. And you guys are in here and splitting that with the middle school. And so we have to be stewards, good stewards of the taxpayers. We have to look at the cost, the repairments. We have to budget for this, and it's not good money management to start talking about bonds and talking about increasing taxes to build a new school building. We have 5 great school buildings right here in our town. We need to continue to repair them, look at it, budget it, and focus on maintaining these great schools. Because like I've said just previously, we live in a beautiful town, there's deer, it's majestic, and we want to make sure that our schools are a representation of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending to these 30 questions and answers. Finally, we will close out our forum with closing statements by each of our candidates. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes for their closing statements. Following our evening process, this will also occur in alphabetical order with Mr. Bates to close us out first.
I'm up. Ladies and gentlemen, I've lived up here for 30 years. We put our daughter through the Woodland Park School District. She graduated in 2008. Her 3 children attended school here. About a year ago, all 3 of them went to Merit and did well there. But my grandson, who plays high school football, rather well, as a matter of fact, found that he was gravitating towards the high school because of his athletics and his teammates, that he asked if he couldn't move. And so we did move Dane to the high school, and he has thrived. And his younger brother and sister thrived at Merit Academy. So that is a good example of school choice. And with us focusing on school choice, and parental involvement, this is an experiment that hasn't been tried in years, imagine that. And I feel strongly for the success of this school district. I'm very pleased with the progress that this school board has made over the last 2 years. And I would certainly appreciate your vote to be a part of our continued success. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. Thank you guys from Merit and the high school, and we have it's called early college. I'm not sure it's West, right? And I believe we have a homeschool student as well. So there's a fantastic team. Thank you guys for all putting this together. And these were some really good questions, guys. Some really tough questions. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to address you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight about these issues, because these are real issues in our election. And this election is going to be very consequential in terms of determining whether the Woodland Park School District continues with its recent rise. Since I was elected in 21, this district is on the rise again. Before that, I've said it before, teacher pay had stagnated for years. Enrollment was just bleeding out. And as a result, they were talking about closing the school. Today, what are we talking about? We're talking about trying to find room for all the students as Merritt Academy continues to grow and as other schools are going to start growing as well. We're talking about making sure that every kid has the same access, the same services, the same opportunity to get a good education and have a great future ahead of them. That's what we're talking about these days, because enrollment is growing again. Okay? Teacher pay is higher than it has ever been. Security is greater. Academic success is on the rise again. There is hope again in the Woodland Park School District. I ask for your vote and vote for Cassie and Mick as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with us. We really appreciate it. And as you've heard tonight, we're just getting started. You know, there has been great success in this district. We're giving teachers rate. We're, bringing in new families. We have a new charter school. We have school choice. We're focused on academic excellence. We're focused on the fiscal responsibility, and we're focused on the parents. And so, I just thank you guys for all your questions, the students here tonight. And I just hope that you guys will get out the vote. And, this vote really matters. We've never seen it anywhere. And the whole nation is watching us. They want to make sure that we're going to continue this success. So please get out and vote. Please tell your neighbors. Vote for Dave and Meg. And vote for me, Cassie Kimbrell, on my birthday. So election day is my birthday. Help me celebrate my winning. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Really isn't that often where election day happens to be on my birthday, so the fact it is while I'm on the ballot is a thrill, so thank you. Or not, we'll see.
Thank you everyone for coming, and we hope this forum helped you have a better understanding of each candidate's vision and plan. We hope that your questions got answered and that you enjoyed Merritt Academy's Forum of Civics.
Thank you to all of the people who helped us set up and run Merritt Academy's first ever forum. We really appreciate it.
Now turn your eyes and ears to listen to Dr. Pekron's closing remarks. Have a good evening and happy voting.
Thank you everyone for coming. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the students. They worked really hard. It's not just them, it's many, many more behind the scenes. Our vision is to create with them a sense of civic responsibility. And we are working on that. And this is a very good example of it tonight. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, back there, way back there. We appreciate it. Thanks to all our sophomores in our history class who helped go through all these questions. We had many to surf through. And thank you to our candidates here for coming and allowing this Forum of Civics to happen. We appreciate it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening.